Konnichiwa, my dudes. Obviously, I'm a very big fan of the Chainsaw Man series. Isn't that right, Pochita? Yes, that's right. Chainsaw Man is on my mind all the time. It never lets me sleep. It lives in my head rent-free. And because I'm so hyped for the Chainsaw Man anime and the Chainsaw Man manga part 2 coming out, I thought maybe I would celebrate by doing a tier list of, literally every single character that has had its face shown in the Chainsaw Man manga. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna... I think I'm just gonna get into it and start rating some characters. Alright, so this is a pretty standard setup. I have it going from double S tier to F tier, which is just the general riffraff. I was gonna have it originally just go up to S tier, but because there are so many good characters, I thought we need to have a tier above the best of the best for only the most legendary of characters. So with that in mind, let's get started on this. So we're gonna start off with Akane Sawatari. Pretty good villain for the early parts, I'd say. I'm gonna put her at B tier, just because there are a lot of really good characters. I think she's good. I think she's got a cute design. I thought she was an interesting villain. She's at B tier because she was cool and interesting, but we never really got to know much about her. We don't really get to know much about any character really in Chainsaw Man. All characters are super, they're made with intention, and Akane's purpose served as an early game villain character, and she served it really well, so she gets to be in B tier. Next up, we have the Zombie Devil, who Denji fights in the first chapter. I don't find him all that interesting, unfortunately. He's gonna stay solidly in D tier, I think, because he's not offensive really. He just sits there in chapter 1 and vibes. He doesn't really have an offensive presence. I think D tier is the right place for him. I didn't want to blow my load on Aki Hayakawa yet. Obviously, he got second place in the first popularity poll given by Chainsaw Man and first place in the second one. So clearly he's a popular character. I gotta say, Aki sits solidly in S tier. There's really not much else to say about him. I think that's a good placing for him. Okay, who the fuck is this guy? Next up we have, I think, the oldest of the Immortal Brothers, the 3 Immortal Brothers from the US in the arc where they're trying to steal Denji's heart. This guy, I'm gonna put solidly, this is gonna be an upset pick, I'm gonna put him solidly in A tier. Just solely because in his intro chapter he was like, us 3 brothers, we never die. And then like 2 chapters later he gets hit by a car. He safely sits there, I think. Next up we have another one of the 3 Immortal Brothers. I think this one is Aldo, the youngest of the 3. He sits comfortably in D tier as well. He doesn't really have an offensive presence, but I feel like, actually no, he gets, I'm gonna push him up to C. He doesn't have an offensive presence, but he was the only one that seems to have a little bit of empathy after killing the Kyoto Division squad. He threw up, he was not happy about it after seeing his brother die. Both of his brothers die. He was not happy about that either, and he seemed to have some remorse and some empathy. So he gets to sit in C tier. He's not offensive, he's not good, he's not bad. I don't want to talk about him for too long. I've spent too long on the Immortal Brothers. Next up, we have Master, or the, spoiler alert, real Santa Claus. Fire arc from the Darkness Devil arc, absolutely fire. She sits solidly in A tier. She was just a cool villain. Amazing design when she consumes the piece of the Darkness Devil flesh. Solid A tier pick. I don't think anyone's gonna argue with that. Next up, we have the Angel Devil. Everyone loves Angel Devil. Actually, I don't know. Everyone on Twitter seems to love Angel Devil. Everyone seems to ship Angel and Aki, which I can kind of see it. They do have something a little homoerotic going on. I ship Aki and Himeno as well, just because Himeno deserves happiness, and so does Aki. But I also maybe they got some polyamorous thing going on. I don't know. Who am I to judge? I think Angel sits obviously in a solid A tier position. Next up, we have the Bat Devil from like chapter 9 or something, 7, 8, 9. I don't know, dude. I can't just recall chapters like that. Solid D tier pick. I was gonna put him in E before, just because who cares? Honestly, most of these characters are riffraff, and I might not even put any character in riffraff because I can think of one thing about each character that makes them just somewhat above riffraff. I can give justification for every single character to not be in the riffraff category. Bat Devil is in D tier solely because he's what led Denji to touching Power's boobs, and I think that might be one of the most legendary scenes in all of manga history. So Bat Devil, you're saved from eternal... What's the word I'm looking for? Bat Devil, you're saved from eternal irrelevancy. That was the word I was looking for. Oh, next up we have Beam. Beam, I'm not even gonna, I'm not fucking around with Beam. Beam is clearly an S tier pick. The only argument I could see for Beam not being an S tier is being an SS tier. I'm saving SS tier. I don't think Beam is the right pick yet. Next up we have this bird eating fiend guy from chapter 3. I can say confidently that he's in chapter 3. He's going in E tier. Sole reason he's in E tier and not in Riffraff. No, I'll put him in Riffraff. No, I'm gonna leave him in E tier. He's in E tier because he's the reason Denji found all those nudie magazines and realized that he wanted to touch some boobies and have sex with women. So he gets to stay there. All right, now we have the Ghost Devil. Ghost Devil, I'm actually gonna put solid C tier. Just because, you know, all the devils, you don't really know much about them, but as far as the devils go, I thought Ghost Devil was really cool. Creepy, unnerving design, cool powers, and just the fact that the Ghost Devil has a contract with Himeno. Obviously, Himeno is a solid pick for best girl. I can't outright say any girl in Chainsaw Man is best girl because they're all best girl. Actually, that's a lie. Raisin and Kobani are clearly best girl. But I think Himeno is a solid pick, and because the Ghost Devil has a contract with Himeno, Himeno has that. Himeno gets Ghost tier from D to C. Also, just Ghost Devil is a really cool design. Next up, we have the Cosmos Fiend. I'm gonna put her solidly. That's hard. A tier or S tier? I want to put her in the middle almost. Okay, I'm going to put her in S tier, and I have a good reason for it. Halloween. Halloween. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Next up, we have the Curse Devil. I'm going to put the Curse Devil in B tier, just because I always love anything that has to do with the Ushi no Toki Maeri curse from Japanese folklore. I did a video about that. You can watch it right here. Yeah, I'm going to shill out my other videos in the middle of another video. But Curse Devil's really cool. I also love... I can make an entire video about this, but whenever the Curse Devil's power is being used, it almost seems like the Curse Devil is coming from off the page. Like the Curse Devil is Tatsuki Fujimoto himself, like when he flicks the hand flicks Aki's sword when he's fighting Katana Man, when he's like getting the curses in on Katana Man. I always thought that was so sick and seems so supernatural and unnerving. A cool, absolutely amazing devil. B tier solidly. Next up is the Darkness Devil. Solid S tier for design alone. There is nothing that can ever there's nothing that will ever be able to replace the experience of reading through Chainsaw Man for the first time and getting to the page with the Darkness Devil, and the Darkness Devil first appears with like the astronauts cut in half in the praying position. There is going to be nothing that stands up to that level of like unnervingness and creepiness and just absolute terror. What an absolute fire character. Next up, we have Denji. This is going to be a controversial placement because I see different things all the time. Denji, solid for me, solid SS tier. I don't think... I'm going to explain myself on that because I know some people just absolutely hate him. And I know a lot of people just don't like overly horny characters. I like Denji just because he's a sweet idiot. I think he's a lot more complex than people give him credit for. He spends the entirety of Chainsaw Man being manipulated. And then at the end, he finally kind of becomes his own person. A horny person at that. He's his own horny self. And also, like, he reminds me, when I was 16 years old, I think my parents are going to watch this video. Never mind. But I love Denji. He's a good guy. So, double S tier. Next up, we have the Eternity Devil. I think solid D pick. He's a cool devil. I think, honestly, the Eternity Devil arc is such an underrated arc. So, that's why I'm putting him in D tier. We have our first, I'm going to say, Fish Devil. Absolute riffraff tier. He is in one panel of one page. Even though I will say it's cool, the Fish Devil is clearly inspired by Junji Ito's Gyo manga, which is pretty cool. Actually kind of disgusting. Read it at your own discretion. Next up, we have the Flamethrower Hybrid. A lot of the unnamed hybrids from chapter, whatever it was, the chapter where it got revealed that Makima was like hoarding all these hybrids as her own dogs. I think the Flamethrower Hybrid, just because we don't really know much about him, I'm gonna have to put him in maybe D tier. I'm certain all of the hybrids from Makima's collection will change with part 2, unless they're just completely forgotten in part 1. I'm certain it'll change. Maybe I'll do an updated version of this later. But at least for first draft, I think D or E tier. I might even move him down in review, because honestly, like, we just don't know anything about him. He has a cool design. The Flamethrower, like the actual, like in devil form, he looks fucking sick. Fox Devil, I'm gonna put in B tier. I think that's a solid place for him. I always loved the Fox Devil because they reminded me of Moro from Princess Mononoke, and that's one of my favorite movies of all time. I think just a B tier for that. And that's all she said. All she wrote. Whatever. What's the fucking... I don't know. So this guy right here, I don't know if any of you guys remember him. His name is Furuno. He's mentioned once by Kishibe in the Katana Man arc. Just an absolute riffraff category. Alright, so next up we have Fushi. I don't know if anyone remembers Fushi, but he was in the newbie welcome party in the izakaya where he said he was drunkenly kissed by Himeno before, and then he was one of the devil hunters targeted in the Katana Man assassinations with the guns. So, usually I'd put him in E or D because, you know, he's not that important, but he did recognize the potential of Best Girl Kobani, so he gets to stay in C tier. I do believe he was one of the guys who mentioned that he thought Kobani was super cute, and I agree with you, Fushi, so you get to sit in C tier, king. Alright, now we have the Future Devil, solid A tier pick, the Future rules. Alright, next up we have the Eyeball, no, the Grape Devil, even though he looks like he should be the Eyeball Devil, riffraff. Clearly. Now we have the Gun Devil, probably one of the main reasons that the series is a thing. I'm gonna put Gun Devil solidly in A tier for A, amazing design, and B, story propulsion. I think the Gun Devil is probably one of the most important characters in all of Chainsaw Man, so I don't know if anyone's gonna have a problem with me putting him in A tier. Obviously, like, the tier doesn't, him being in A tier doesn't mean I like him. I don't like guns very much, but he can stay in A tier, I think, just because of how good of a character he is and how well written he is. And also, the Gun Devil is probably going to be the gift that keeps on giving. I don't know if anyone remembers the few chapters where the Gun Devil was just firing millions and millions of shots throughout Japan, and it had all the names listed of all the people that the Gun Devil killed that day. And one of the names was, I think a few names had the last name Yoshida, but it wasn't Hirofumi. So there's potential maybe in part 2, some kind of revenge story that maybe Hirofumi Yoshida's family was killed in this Gun Devil's scourge. So, I don't know, maybe we can look out for that. Next up we have Hell Devil, and that's actually going to be a solid B pick for me as well, just for design reasons, and also, like I said with the Curse Devil, I loved the supernatural element in how Hell Devil was paneled. Like when the department store was cast into hell, the hand basically came down from off the screen, off the panels. Like, it was almost like Tatsuki Fujimoto's hand himself grabbing the department store. And it was super wacky and weird. So yeah, I think a solid B pick for design reasons and just for how cool he is. Next up, we have Himeno, a solid pick for Best Girl. Any person out there who says that Himeno is Best Girl in Chainsaw Man, I don't necessarily agree with you, but I respect you more than people who just chant Makima or power. So I think Himeno, solid, between A and S tier for me. I think I'm gonna go S, and I have a reason for it. I think Himeno is one of the most intentional characters in the manga. Not intentional. I think Himeno is one of the best written, at least. Himeno is short and sweet. Himeno is there for probably 10 to 15 chapters of pure, like, awesomeness. Like, she threw up in Denji's mouth. She was comedic relief. She was fun. She was sexy. She was one of the devil hunters who had a lot of personality, who you could tell was a person outside of her job. So I think just because of that, she deserves a solid S tier. Next up, we have my boyfriend, Hirofumi Yoshida. Actually, I'm not sure if he's in high school. He's not my boyfriend. Hirofumi Yoshida, I'm gonna put him in... Actually, I'm gonna put him in S tier too. And that's gonna be a controversial pick for some, but I think a lot of other people might understand. This dude was literally in maybe 10 chapters max. Maybe you could see his face in 5 chapters. Max. and he still ended up being like a fan favorite. He had so much staying power for a character who was barely in the manga. Next up, we have Hirokazurai. I'm gonna put him solidly in C tier, I feel like, just because he died protecting Kobani, and I think that is the most noble of deaths. So, C tier you go, I think. Next up, we have Joey. Out of all of the Immortal Brothers, he was probably my least favorite. He had absolutely zero staying power. Solid, I think, D tier pick. Nah, I'm gonna put him in E. Next up, we have Katana Man. I'm gonna put Katana Man solidly in B tier. I think his design's really cool. Obviously, I like katanas. If you've seen any of my katana videos, I'm gonna shill that right there, or maybe in the description or something. I'm gonna shill it somewhere. You're gonna see it. Katana Man, solid B tier. Cool design, cool character. He did kill a lot of our favorites, but he got his when he got kicked in the nuts like a million times. So he can stay there. Next up, we have the Gunfian. Gunfian, I'm going to put up in A tier with the Gun Devil, partially because they're like the same character, but also there was a lot of sadness involved with the Gunfian. I think that Gunfian versus Denji was probably the saddest part of the manga for me, and Denji having to, you know, do what he has to do, right? So A tier, completely fire. Few chapters with the Gunfian in it, and it really made you feel. Now we have Kato right here. I don't know if you guys remember Kato at all, but he was one of the guys in the Bomb Devil arc, the Bomb Girl arc, where he bit his hand and he pointed at Reze and grew mold in her intestines and heart. So he had a contract with the Mantis Devil. He's pretty much riffraff, but I actually think his contract is really cool, so he deserves a solid E tier placement, I think. Next up, we have Kishibe. I'm gonna put him solidly in A tier. That said, I think an argument could be made for S tier. Kishibe, definitely the DILF of the entire series. I don't think there's any arguments about that. And Kishibe is a proper DILF. He is in his 40s, maybe pushing 50. He is a DILF. Dads are that old. I hate when people go online and they say, oh, Satoru Gojo's a DILF. The dude is 28 years old. Kento Nanami, he's not a DILF. He's 27 years old. They are not DILFs. Those are not dad ages. 40 to 50, that is a DILF. Kobeni Higashiyama, solid fucking S tier. If it were like, if I were being completely biased, I would put Kobeni in double S tier because I fucking love her. But I think I have to keep my own opinion in mind and also just what's logical. Kobeni, I think, is an S tier character. Actually, no, you know what? I'm putting her in double S. And I can justify that. It's not just bias. Chapter, I think, 85, the hamburger chapter, that is the best chapter in anything ever. I have never read something that has topped that. Nothing before chapter 85 dropped and nothing afterwards. That is the best chapter of anything ever. And Kobeni, just like the situational comedy of it and the paneling, it is literally one of the most fucked up and funny things I've seen in my entire life. Solid SS tier, and that's all because of her. Obviously, it's all because of Tatsuki Fujimoto's genius, but basically he uses Kobeni as like a literal, like a literature punching bag, and I think she deserves an SS for that. For nothing else. There's no prize money for this, so I can't fix her financial situation, but at least she can rest happy knowing that I think she's a double S tier character. Kobeni's car. I'm gonna throw Kobeni's car solidly in double S tier. If there were a triple S tier, actually, you know what? We gotta stick with theme. I'm putting Kobeni in S tier and Kobeni's car in double S tier. Sorry, Kobeni, I love you, but it's what I have to do to stick with the meme. Next up, we have Kusakabe, the guy with the Stone Devil contract in the Darkness Devil arc. He was the guy who's the germaphobe who told Denji not to eat an onigiri off the ground, and also told Denji to speak properly to him. I think he's a bit of a fucking wiener, so he's gonna have to go on E tier. I think the Stone Devil was pretty cool, and the contract that they had was pretty cool, but the dude was a fucking wiener, so he goes in E tier. I think we have the Leech Devil next, who's also, I think, not all that important, so solid E tier pick as well. Next up, we have Long. I confused her for Pinksty because I can't really remember. I remember their names, but I don't remember which one's which. We have Long. Design-wise, absolutely adorable and cute. Kind of reminds me of Power with the horns. I'm going to put her in either A tier or B tier. My thinking is going more towards B tier just because there wasn't much of her. But I love all of Quan Chi's fiends. Long amongst them. So she gets a solid B tier for a cute design, and I think she actually might be the Dragon Fiend. I'm not sure. She kind of looks like Power a little bit. She kind of looks like she could be a Blood Fiend, even though there's only one Blood Fiend. So yeah, Power, or I'm sorry, Long. She's solid B tier pick. Next up, we have the Longsword Hybrid. I'm gonna have to put him in the same tier with the Flamethrower Hybrid, D tier, just because, like I said, they have amazing designs, but we have seen them in maybe 3 chapters in total, 3 or 4 chapters in total. I don't think that's like I'm gonna do an updated version of this eventually once part 2 of the manga comes out. Next up, we have Madoka. I think I'm gonna put him in D tier, and I can explain. I think in Division 4 or Division 2, for the first 2 big fights with the Katana Man arc and the he wasn't in the Eternally Devil arc, but he was around. I'm gonna put him in D tier just because he was one of the first characters to question Makima on her ethics. So I think that's a pretty solid pick, or solid tier for him, D tier. Even though he was obviously a riffraff character. Alright, next up we have Makima. I think it's taken entirely too long to get to her. Solidly S tier. S tier or double S tier. And I know a lot of people are going to be mad at me for saying that, but I'm not just going on how much I like the character. I'm going off of how good of a character they are. Honestly, my argument for Makima being in double S tier is because she's just one of those extremely amazing and intentional characters. Everything about her is intentional. Her design, her mannerisms, she seems sweet. She, like, as soon as you see her, she is attractive and she's terrifying. So she has this weird, sexy, mysterious allure, but it's terrifying. You know there's more to her from when she first appears, and you see her eyes, and everything about her is so intentional. She is honestly one of the best written characters in anything ever, which is why I want to put her in double S tier. But I guess if I had to put my personal feelings into it a little bit, I'm gonna put her in S tier, just because she's responsible for all the bad things that happened in the manga. I'm gonna be a little conflicted about that, and I might move her up in the review after this. Next up, we have the Mantis Devil. Solid riffraff pick. I don't even remember where he came from, so solid F tier riffraff pick. Next up, we have Masaki Ondo, and I was so excited this entire time to get to him, because he is one of the only riffraff characters where we know his full name, and that's only for one reason. First of all, Masaki Ondo, he gets a solid B tier for me, because he shows what Japanese gun laws are like, and I think that's so cool, because in the Bomb Girl arc, he was the guy who was like, I'm Masaki Ondo requesting permission to fire, and like why would you request permission to shoot your gun in a high stress situation like that when you're fighting a life-threatening devil that can blow shit up? But it shows the Japanese gun laws of the police officers and armed forces, where they have to request permission from their higher-ups to be able to fire their gun. So in a situation where a police officer is like in like a shootout or something with some bad guy or something like that, he would be like, I'm Tanaka Soabe requesting permission to fire my weapon. And that's just it's a cool thing. I thought that was really cool. It showed a view into Japanese life and police culture, I guess. That felt awful to say, police and culture next to each other, but it is something that I thought was cool in Chainsaw Man. So solid B tier pick for me. All right, next up we have Michiko Tendo, or as I like to call her, Michiko Tendies. She's the tall woman, the sexy tall woman. I know the Immortal Brothers, after they killed her, they were like, ah, damn, she was sexy. Then one of the guys was like, I don't like girls who are taller than me. So she's the sexy big woman. I think just a solid C tier pick for me. She's cool. She has a really cute design. I think I like Utahime from Jujutsu Kaisen a lot. I think anime girls with scars on their faces is a cool design. So yeah, solid C tier pick for Michiko Tendies. We have the Muscle Devil. I think another riffraff pick for me. There's not much. I mean, maybe an argument could be made for E tier, because the Muscle Devil was what showed how naive Denji is in the first place. Even though I feel like anyone would fall for that. I don't know. Solid. Actually, if Leech Devil can be an E tier, I think Muscle Devil can be there too. We have Nakamura next, who, if you don't remember him, he was decapitated in Quan Chi's Rampage. So solid riffraff pick. That's about it. Next up we have Nattia, pointing her finger, calling Denji a simp. We're gonna put Nattia in, because I'd feel bad putting her anything higher than like B tier, just because she's only in one chapter, and I put all the hybrids in D tier as well, because we don't know them. Nattia obviously is gonna be a massive player in part 2 of Chainsaw Man. I'm gonna go ahead and put her in B tier. I know I might get shit for that, but cute design, first of all, and also just the fact that she's gonna be she's confirmed gonna be absolutely massive in part 2 of Chainsaw Man, whereas, you know, we don't really know if the hybrids are gonna play that big of a role yet. They probably will, but I don't know. Next up we have Nomo, one of the guys in, I think, Division 2, when I guess he was boxing Aki or something like that, and he died in Reise's Rampage. Nomo, I think D tier pick. I kind of liked him because he had even though he was only in like 2 chapters, he had a lot of personality for how short he was in the manga, how short-lived he was, and I kind of liked him being like, oh, I wanted to go to the singles meetup too. Yeah, I guess the reason he is in D tier and not in E or F tier is because in 1 chapter alone, he exhibited a lot of personality, so I like him. Next up we have Octopus Devil. Octopus Devil I think can go in B tier as well. I think it's a really cool power. It honestly makes Hirofumi Yoshida into like a Tokyo Ghoul character in Chainsaw Man, because he has the tentacle. He can attack with a tentacle like the Kagune in Tokyo Ghoul. So I think that's a solid pick. And I know that Tasuki Fujimoto is heavily inspired by Sui Ishida, who did Tokyo Ghoul, so maybe that's where the Octopus Devil's power came from. So I'm going to leave him solidly in B tier. I think that's a good place for him. I think this is the Pig Devil. Next up, absolute F tier riffraff. If I can't remember where you came from and why you're in the manga, you're just auto riffraff. I think that's a fair assumption, right? Next up, we're gonna have Ping Stee. I confused her for long earlier. Maybe she's the one that's the Dragon Fiend. I don't know. She has the cool, cute hair. I think she also goes in B tier with Long, Ping Stee and Long. They're both really cute designs. I don't think I'm gonna put a single one of Quan Chi's girls lower than B tier, because I think they're all cute and they're all awesome. So yeah, I think solid B tier. Honestly, they're only B tier because we don't know too much about them, but I thought that they were effective. I thought they were cute. Next up we have everyone's favorite Power, Power. So Power, I am having trouble placing her. I know that if I put her anywhere lower than S tier, like double S tier, the highest tier possible, I'm gonna get a lot of shit for that because everyone loves her. I love her too, honestly. She's one of my favorites. I'm so excited to get my Power and Android in the mail. But I'm gonna put her in S tier. She's another really intentional character. Obviously, she's like the cute, like almost fake out love interest. Because every now and then Tasuki Fujimoto wants you to think that she's potentially the love interest, the real love interest. Then he fakes it out like, nah, she's not the actual love interest. Power's just an S tier. She's such an enjoyable character. She brings a lot of personality to the manga, and she's one of those characters. I love the personalities in Chainsaw Man and how every character has just such a clear personality. They're like almost like people you know. It's almost like I know Power. She gets an S tier. I think solid. I would never ever give her anything less than S tier. Putting her in A tier would be a disgrace to how awesome she is. Next up we have Prinz, the Spider Devil. I think she's the Spider Devil. I'm not sure. She's kind of weird. I'm not sure where to put her. Prinz, I'm gonna put her in C tier actually. Just because there's not much about her. I think she's cool, and I honestly like. I think the mystery of her power is what gets her into C tier for me. I think C tier is a good thing, by the way. I think C tier, like double S through A tier is like amazing characters. B and C tier are like really good characters. D tier is like, yeah, okay. And E tier is like, okay, kind of meh. Riff Raff is where I put just the who cares. I think this is the Punishment Devil. Design-wise, Punishment Devil is clearly an S tier. I'm gonna put Punishment Devil in A tier though, with Gun Devil and Gun Fiend, just because cool design can only get you so far. This, I'm not even gonna waste any time on this. Reise is a double S tier for me. Reise, I talk about how I love how Tasuki Fujimoto has very intentional characters. Reise is the perfect example of that. She is clearly an intentional character. She's the character you're supposed to fall in love with her, like how Denji falls in love with her almost immediately. That is her, like, that's why she's there. She's placed in the manga for you to fall in love with, and she does that amazingly. She's so charming. There's a panel where she disappears and chokes out some guy on the roof. Then she comes back when Denji's waiting for him, like, I wonder where she is. And she pops out and she's like, hey, Denji. And she's like super cute and like, I don't know, super intentional, clear double S tier. I would not put her anything lower than that. Some people might disagree with me, but I think that's where she belongs. Next up, we have Santa Claus. Old Santa Claus. I think C tier pick because he's creepy. I think he fits the vibe of the manga really well. Weird and creepy, and he kind of drives the horror aspect further a little bit, kind of like Darkness Devil and whatnot. Next up, we have the Sea Cucumber Devil. I'm just going to put him in riffraff. Next up, we have the Snake Devil. I think Snake Devil's a solid... I just put Snake Devil in C, but actually I want to put Snake Devil in D. Obviously really cool and amazing design. I love how the mouth is like hands, kind of creepy. I like it. I think it's cool. Actually, no, you know what? I think C tier for creepiness of design and fitting the vibe well. Next up, we have the Spear Hybrid. I'm not going to waste any time. D tier because we don't know him yet. We're going to know him hopefully in part 2. So, D tier. Also, we have the Stone Devil. I think Stone Devil can go in E tier just with his master. Just because, well, first of all, he dies like almost immediately. But also, it's just, you know, who is he anyway? Does he need to be that high? Next up, we have the Kyoto Division. I think Kyoto Division 1 leader, Suaru. He was pretty cool. I think he was the one that didn't know much about Makima, and he was asking about Makima, and they're like, nah, she's a mystery. Oh, and he was like, and his team was like, we wanted to talk to you about that because we think that there's something wrong with her. I think E tier pick. I think he's cool. I like him based off of design. I can't justify putting him any higher than E tier because he basically dies immediately. But I kind of liked him. I wish it would be cool if like Tatsuki Fujimoto wanted to pick one riffraff character to make like a spin-off manga about. It would be kind of cool to see the Kyoto Division and what their lives were like before they were killed by the Aldo brothers. Did I say Aldo brothers? The Immortal Brothers? One of the brothers' names is Aldo. So yeah, he can stay solidly in E tier. I think that's a decent place for him. Next up, we have Tamaoki. I'm going to put him in riffraff. He was in the assassination arc when the Darkness Devil arc, basically when all the assassins came to try to kill Denji and take his heart. I don't think he deserves to be any higher than riffraff. I don't actually even remember if he dies or not. I just know where he was. Next up, we have Tanabe, who was another one of the devil hunters who grew mold in Reise's heart and intestines. I think another low tier pick, probably E tier with his friend who also has the contract with the Mold Devil. He gets saved from riffraff because of his cool power. Next up, we have Tolka, who I think honestly has, I'm going to put him in C tier. For a good character, even though, like, who the fuck is he anyway? I'm going to put him in C tier, and I can explain that really well, I think. He is basically Denji, but in, like, a different timeline, I feel like. He was manipulated and molded into being something without being his own person by the real Santa Claus, by his master. In the end, she tells him, you're the perfect doll. This is what it takes to be a doll. In this case, he was Santa Claus's doll, whereas Denji is Makima's dog. I think Tolka should sit perfectly in C tier, because maybe even B tier, honestly. And I might change that in review, just because I think he's a really cool character, and he's basically he lives the story of Denji, but with a different Makima, basically. All right, we're getting into devils and hybrids. I put the Bomb Devil in here instead of Reise. I mean, I already put Reise in double S. I don't know if. I mean, they're basically the same person, so I don't know if I really have to put her on here, but if I did, I would put her, honestly, I don't, I would want to put her in double S with Reise, but I guess she's not quite as intentional as Reise. She's not as, like, she doesn't have the cuteness factor that Reise does. So actually, I'm going to put her in A tier for cool design. Being Reise, basically. Actually, you know what? A or S tier because of the horror element, the direction with her. There was the scene where she was holding the two severed heads of the guys in the dark as Aki's car drove up on her and the headlights illuminated that. And I think that was so fucking cool, and the horror aspects of it were amazing. Next up, we have our boy Chainsaw Man. I'm separating him from Denji because he's technically Pochita. Actually, I didn't put Pochita in here because this is basically Pochita. Chainsaw Man is Pochita, but in ass fuck form. So ass fuck Pochita, I think I'm gonna put double S tier as well. Solid place. Along with, it was the combination of Chainsaw Man and Kobani that made chapter 85 the absolute masterpiece it is. We have the devil that started it all, the Tomato Devil. Riffraff, I would put him in Riffraff. I'm gonna put him in E, because the story would be nothing without the first devil to ever appear in Chainsaw Man. First devil that isn't Pochita. Pochita's the first devil. Tomato Devil's the second one. I will say, Tomato Devil makes me question the mechanics of the world in Chainsaw Man, because Denji kills the Tomato Devil and he's like, make sure to burn the seeds or he'll come back. I thought when devils die, they go back to hell. Maybe it's just a writing inconsistency or something, because that's like literally the first chapter, but it's interesting. The Tomato Devil made me question the devil mechanics. So who knows if that was retconned or not. Let me know what you think in the comments. Next up, we have Tsugihagi. I'm going to put Tsugihagi solidly in B tier as well. I think she has a cute design. She never said a word. She's the silent anime character type. Tsugihagi, solid B tier. Typhoon Devil gets the E tier treatment just because he spent the entire manga being a massive pussy. I don't know if anyone, I don't think anyone's going to disagree with me on that. I haven't seen a single person online or on the internet or in real life say, my favorite character in Chainsaw Man's the Typhoon Devil. Typhoon's probably one of the only named character that I think everyone can agree is just a massive pussy and spent the entire manga being a massive pussy. Next up, we have the Whip Hybrid. I'm not sure about the Whip Hybrid, because the Whip Hybrid's either a really cute girl character or a really cute boy character with long hair. I'm not sure where to... actually, well, clearly he gets the D tier treatment because he's another one of the nameless hybrids that we know nothing about yet, that we hopefully will learn more about in part 2. Actually, I assume he's a boy, because when they were talking about getting a date with Makima, Reze was like, well, I don't think Makima would have fun on a date with a boy, and he did speak like going, okay, confirmed, Whip Hybrid's a boy, even though he looks like a cute girl, which that's power to him. Next up, we have Yutaro Kurose. I think I'm gonna put him in D tier maybe, because he was also one of those people that questions Makima's ethics and wanted to talk to his division leader about, you know, something's off about Makima, you know? She got killed on a train, but then she came back to life. Something's fucked up about that. Next up, we're getting kind of close to the end. We only have 3 left, and we have Quan Chi. It would be a disgrace to put Quan Chi in anything lower than S tier. Quan Chi's fucking awesome. She has badass powers, and she likes sexy-ass bitches. There is... honestly, you can't ask for anything more than that. S tier solely because hot design, hot mommy, fucking... badass bitch, and loves cute girls. Next up, we have the Violence Fiend, who I'm going to put in A tier. A tier because I think he's really funny. I can imagine him having Joseph Joestar's voice actor, also Sakata Gintoki's voice actor, because he even employs the secret family Joestar technique of running away in battle. Solid, manly choice. A tier easily for me. Also, he loves Kobani like I do, so he can stay in A tier easily. And finally, we have, separate from Power, the Blood Devil. S tier. I don't think we're going to have any problems with that, really. I don't know if anyone's going to disagree with me on that one. S tier easy. Also, because she basically is Power. She's the first president. Makima is a loser. Makima is a nobody. Blood Devil's the first president. Yeah, easy S tier pick for me. Amazing design for a devil. She kind of looks like Power, but also like creepy and devilly and organy and ribcagey. Easy S tier pick for me. This is, so far, what the most official every character in Chainsaw Man tier list looks like. I even added nobody characters that no one cares about. This is as official as it gets. In review, if I could change anything, I think I would actually put Makima in double S tier, and maybe Power as well, just because of how amazingly intentional they are as characters. Nattia, I might move... Nattia I'll keep there. Actually, I might move Akane Sawatiri up to A tier, because I think she's really cool. and I think she was a really good villain. She's another one of those short and sweet characters. I don't think I would move anything else. I think this is where I like the tier list. I like it like this. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please watch one of my other Chainsaw Man videos. I'm gonna have a lot more of them. I just bought a bunch of Chainsaw Man shit recently, like this Pochita plushie. I'm gonna do a lot of unboxing videos for Chainsaw Man merch. I've bought so much of it. I am obsessed with this series. This is one of my favorite things of all time. I have all the manga. Yeah, I love it so much. So you will be seeing more Chainsaw Man content from me. So please look out for that. And thank you so much. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Links in the description below. You can get more updates there. Also, I just love to interact with you guys. So, you know, please comment. Please come to my Twitter. Talk to me. Send me your memes. Let me know if you agree or disagree with me down in the comments below. And on that note, I'll see you guys next time.